I'm Shannon Rutherford, the town planner for Farmington. I'm going to start with a roll call of our commission members, and then I will turn it over to our chair. Jay Bombara.
Present.
Joanne Lawson.
Present.
Cliff Mix.
Present.
Michelle Phelan. Michelle.
Present.
Thank you. No, that's okay. I was like, I know, I just saw you. Liz Gemsky.
Here.
John Renahan.
Here.
And Ted Sanford.
Here.
Perfect.
And me.
Oh, and Jim Calciano. Yeah, I
Okay.
saved you for last. I see, and then I forgot you. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem.
And our chair is here in person. I
Okay.
apologize.
Welcome, everybody. The last meeting for the end of the year. Another vibrant election night, too.
A vibrant election night. Yes.
So we'll start with a public hearing. Michelle?
Okay, Town of Farmington Historic District Commission notice is hereby given that the Farmington Historic District Commission will hold an online public hearing on Tuesday, December 20th, 2022 at 5 p.m. on the following application. Farmington Historic District Study Report dated August 2022 concerning addition of historic properties 11 Waterville Road, The Elms, and 26 Waterville Road. Interested parties are encouraged to participate in this online public hearing. The link to this meeting may be found on the Town of Farmington website and the link follows. A copy of this proposal is on file in the planning department at the Town Hall in Farmington, Connecticut, and may also be accessed online at the link provided in the notice, or by calling the planning department at 860-675-2325. Dated at Farmington, Connecticut, this first day of December 2022.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so it's our show. So the first item is the public hearing for the study report. With me this afternoon is Garrett Daigle, our assistant town planner. Garrett is going to run through and do the discussion on the properties to be added. And then I am also going to do a portion of the presentation. And then we will open it up just like we would any other public hearing to commission questions from the commission, and then questions from the public, including our homeowners that have put forth their properties. So now is the opportunity not only for the general public, but our prospective the homeowners of our new additions. So with that, we will get started and go to slideshow.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Farmington Historic District 2022 expansion report. We have two properties for consideration this evening. We have 11 Waterville Road, The Elms, and 26 Waterville Road. First off, this is where we currently stand in the process. Once homeowners are interested in joining the district, the town council will appoint a study committee. The study committee will then submit a report for comments to the State Historic Preservation Office, the Town Plan and Zoning Commission, as well as the chair of the town council. The State Historic Preservation Office will then submit comments to the study committee on the report. Following that, the study committee holds a public hearing for inclusion of the selected properties, which is where we are tonight. Following this evening, the property owners will then have 30 days from the public hearing to submit a notarized written objection if they do not wish to continue with the historic designation of their property. And then finally, the final report, historic district map, and proposed town ordinance revision is submitted to the town council for adoption. Just here's the map of the historic district and the two properties that we are considering for this evening: 11 Waterville Road and 26 Waterville Road. And I believe if we go to the next slide, it just zooms in. 26 is adjacent to the country club, and 11 is across the street from the country club. As stated, we have two properties for consideration this evening: 11 Waterville Road and 26 Waterville Road. Just some background on both these houses on the next slide. Thank you. So both of these homes were constructed by Noah Wallace in the study committee elected to include some information about Noah Wallace's background, as a number of the homes on Waterville Road were constructed by Wallace. The proposed homes, as well as many other along the southern section of Waterville Road, were constructed by Noah Wallace. Wallace, a New York native, moved to Farmington in the later part of the 19th century. A founding member of the Farmington Country Club, Wallace was also a prolific developer of real estate in Farmington. Many homes were built, renovated, and bought and sold by Wallace. Homes were primarily built in the colonial revival style, leading to a curated look of Farmington in the 20th century. So first up is 11 Waterville Road, The Elms. The current owners are Jennifer and Jared Proto. The house was built in 1905. The architectural style is colonial revival, and it's located on the western side of Waterville Road. The architectural and historical significance. The Elms is a home built by Noah Wallace to be the residence for Mr. F.E. Belden. The home was designed by Theodore Peck and built by the Parsons brothers. This developer, architect, and contractor combination constructed other homes along Waterville Road, including Meadowview at 33 Waterville Road. The home was rented to Mr. Belden until Wallace sold the home in 1919 to Arthur Griswold. 3 years later, the home was sold to Elva Simpson and then sold to Arthur E. Parsons in 1926. Arthur E. Parsons lived the remainder of his life in the home. In 1945, Helen D. Perkins rented an apartment in the home for Mr. Parsons, and following his death, Miss Perkins purchased the home from the estate in 1970. Miss Perkins was a local painter, president of the Hartford Society of Women Painters, founder of the Connecticut Watercolor Society, and founded the Farmington Girl Scout Troop in 1945. A shingle-style colonial revival home with a large cross-sectional gambrel roof system. The home includes original-style elements such as wood shingle siding, 2/2 double-hung sash windows, with decorative geometric diamond pane sashes on the third floor. The offset entry porch with built-in bench seating and heavy gambrel pediment may be original features to the home. The existing shutters are appropriate for the time period and style of the house, although not part of the home at the time of the historic inventory in April 1986. The property also contains a barn to the rear of the property that appears to be original to the property and has not been remodeled. Next for consideration is 26 Waterville Road. The current owner is Beatrice Stockwell. The house was constructed in 1917, is in the colonial revival style, and is located on the eastern side of Waterville Road. Architectural and historical significance. The home was constructed by Noah Wallace around 1917 before being sold to Helen Wade Cook Waters, who owned the home until 1925, who then sold the home to Henry W. Steiner. Lois Steiner sold the home to Anne DeMussy in March of 1962, who then sold the home to Beatrice Stockwell in 1964, who has owned the home to this day. The home is adjacent to the Farmington Country Club golf course and remains a right to pass for golfers to elect golf balls. The home displays colonial revival styles with a symmetrical design and gable-ended roof design. The wooden clapboard siding is original to the home and typical of the era. The front entry porch may have been more enclosed at some point, as the original porch entry may have been more open and supported with columns and balustrades. The building has wooden shutters that are louvered with panel cutout designs appropriate for this period. The windows are 8/8 double hung windows, as well as on the first floor seasonal sunroom, are representative of the period style. The detached garage appears to be of original shape and design with carriage doors. One of the doors is original to the home, while the other is an exact replica. The home originally had a more circular driveway, which was required to be removed when the state widened Waterville Road. The current owner, Beatrice Stockwell, has a long-standing history of community service in Farmington. Ms. Stockwell's community service includes Town Council Chair from 1993 to 1997, Board of Education Secretary from 1973 to 1985, and Board of Education Chair from 1985 to 1993. Farmington Land Trust Board member, the Farmington Valley Trails Council, and the Stanley Whitman House. In 2013, the Farmington Land Trust honored Ms. Stockwell with their Citizen of the Year award at their annual meeting. Thank you to the owners of these properties for their interest in preserving the history of Farmington.
Okay, and part two of the presentation is to discuss the guidelines that the Farmington Historic District operates under, as well as the process for applying for a certificate of appropriateness with the Farmington Historic District. So the purpose of the guidelines is the commission's goal is to preserve and protect exterior features that make the community a warm and welcoming one that people want to live in, while allowing for appropriate modifications to property as the community grows and changes. The authority is limited to decisions that govern features to the exterior of the building and parts of the building that are visible from the public street, way, or place, including site features. Note that the commission has no jurisdiction over paint color or landscaping. The standards that are adhered to stem from the national standards set by the U.S. Department of Interior, and they focus on preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, and reconstruction. The guidelines in particular put a focus on rehabilitation, and the guidelines are in place to help property owners make decisions about altering their historic property while identifying, retaining, and preserving historic features. This is a sample photo actually of a home on Unionville, in Unionville on Farmington Avenue, which is in the Unionville Historic District, but it is indicative of what is and is not part of jurisdiction. So the front of the home, the brick, the steps, the porch, the shutters, the windows, all under a purview of the Unionville Historic District. Whereas the rear of the building, you can see there's a steel door that comes into a bottom walkout basement portion with, I'd say, non-traditional glass and siding, certainly in addition at some point. And that would not have been subject to historic district review and approval, since it's not viewable from the street or a public way. This is what our certificate of appropriateness applications look like. So there's a submission process. The applications are due to the planning office by noon, 3 weeks prior to the meeting. Typically, our meetings for the Farmington Historic District are held the third Tuesday of each month. There are some variations, with a call to our office or a review of the meeting schedule online would provide the meeting dates, as well as the submission dates are also on the calendar that's posted online and available with our office. The front page of the application is just general information about the owner and the applicant, and the address and a general description of the work that's proposed to be taking place at the property. And then there's more specifics for the submission for guidelines for site improvements, and talk specifically about parking areas, driveways, fences, walls, lighting, lampposts, signage, if it happens to be a commercial property. And it allows for a more detailed description of the work, as well as suggestion of supplemental information that should be submitted to the commission to aid in their understanding of the scope and scale of the project and materials that are to be used. Same goes for guidelines for material changes for windows, doors, shutters, fence materials, siding, decking, and such. And again, provides space for more detailed description and similar list of information that's suggested to support the documentation. Hand sketches are appropriate when it's a smaller project. If it's a larger project, such as an addition to the home, then Ruth suggested that the architectural drawings would be submitted as part of the application. And then finally, the last part of the submission, again, depending upon what you're working on, if it happens to be an addition or new structure, be it a garage, barn, shed, etc., then obviously more detailed information is needed, and the plan as well as the architectural drawings would be expected to be provided. as well as material list for any of the exterior features, doors, windows, siding, roofing, etc. For the process, again, the application, it starts with the application to us that comes in 3 weeks prior to the meeting. And then once it's received with our office, then it's processed and the notice for the hearing is sent to the property owner. The town is also responsible for publishing a notice in the newspaper between 15 and 5 days before the meeting. Notice is sent to abutting property owners. And all the notices are completed by town staff, and then a sign must be posted on the property for the 7 days prior to the hearing. We have the signs, but we ask that the homeowners come in, pick up the sign and leave a $35 deposit that's refundable upon return of the sign after the hearing. The public hearing process proceeds more, thank goodness, like the photo on the right-hand side, as opposed to the photo on the left. It is just as you will find the meeting this evening, and if you were to view any of the online recordings, fairly amicable and give and take as far as an exchange of information. So the property owners provided an opportunity to present their application and their request to the commission. The commission then will ask questions to provide clarity and better understanding of the work to take place. And then it is a public hearing, so anyone from the public that has called in regarding a particular application is given an opportunity to provide their comment. And then the property owner is provided an opportunity to close out and answer any questions and provide any additional clarity that may be needed for their application. Again, we try to make it as conversational as possible so that it is more of a work session and collaborative event. And then finally, the decision, the commission typically will vote the same, it will close the hearing, open and close the hearing in the same meeting and typically vote that same evening. There are exceptions if additional information is needed or the commission is asking an applicant to consider a different material, etc., in which case the hearing may be held open. But once the hearing is closed, the commission typically votes that same evening, and then a written decision is sent to you via certified mail within a few business days of the meeting. And of course, the decision is posted in the newspaper as required, and the meeting minutes is documented in the meeting minutes as well. There is an appeal period to the decision, but the appeal must be filed within 15 days of the public notice. And then the commission has 65 days to render a decision on the application. So from the time of that first meeting, there's a 65-day clock that starts to process the application. And that is it for our presentation. Maybe, there we go. So with that, Mr. Chair, we will turn this over to you if or I can run through the commission members if you'd like, or you can to see if any of the commission members have questions, and then we can open it up to the public. Okay.
So why don't we ask Jay Mara, any comments?
Yeah, Jim, just real quick, first, obviously, thank you to the property owners who have agreed to place these properties into the district. Obviously, you still have an opportunity to think about it one more time, but it's a generous act and I appreciate it. I do think that, when you step back and look at Farmington Village, especially the historic areas, not just the district, or not all the properties are actually in the district, but the more properties we can get in there, the more we can continue to build on really what is a unique, not just in the state or in the town, but nationally, a unique historic district where you actually have a viable residential area that of homes, which is an incredible cross section of the different architectural styles of in America over all the centuries. So I appreciate that. I'd also just note that there are some, in case anybody's listening, potential financial benefits. The state has a program that is typically funded each year. And so for anybody, for that matter, any on the board as well, you should be aware that if you want to do improvements to the home, there may be monies available to reimburse you for a significant portion of the improvements that you make. So I would encourage people to look at that too. And then finally, I'll just say, Jim, that I think the town, you guys have done a great job of why these are important properties particularly, but the whole No Wallace story is really an amazing story. Obviously, we all know that the school is named after him. That's because he left funds to basically fund the school system, which some people thought they'd never have to impose any taxes once he gave the money, but he didn't. He never did marry. He did leave his money to the town as a generous thing. But he was very involved in developing the town in the late 19th century, early 20th century. He saw it, I think, a lot as a business thing, but he was also behind the creation of the Farmington Country Club. He owned thousands of acres where there's now winding trails in Avon Old Farms, where he had his hunting lodge as well as raised trout and other things. So he was sort of building this sort of gentleman squire kind of concept, which I think was attractive to people at that time who were obviously able to afford it. And that's why these houses are of great interest, and they are a great reflection of sort of the styles of that time and sort of how they were echoing the colonial styles before that. So other than that, I just think this is terrific, and thank you everybody for getting it this far.
Thank you, Jay. Good history. Next, Sally,
Joanne Lawson.
or Joanne Lawson, sorry.
I
Joanne,
agree that these are wonderful homes to be added to the historic district, and I don't have any questions. I've always enjoyed driving by them, and it'll be good to know that they're contributing to the historic district.
hey, Michelle?
Yes, I just wanted to echo the thank you for considering being part of the Farmington Historic District. And the only comment I wanted to make was that where Garrett's presentation, and I think Shannon touched upon the collaboration. We're not the questions that you might have regarding potential changes to your homes aren't just confined to meetings. And in fact, during this meeting, we're doing an informal review. So oftentimes decisions, or sometimes I should say, decisions can be made outside of a formalized process. In my mind, speaking to the partnership or the willingness to be able to build upon the foundation of the historic district and just make it really continue to improve upon it. And so thank you very much. Thank you for your consideration. Both homes are beautiful and can be very distracting when I shouldn't be distracted driving on that part of Waterville Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Cliff, welcome. You're new to the board.
Thank you very much. I would just reiterate what's already been said. I think they're lovely homes, and be great to have them part of the district. Other than that, I don't have any questions.
John?
No questions. Just again, thank you for considering it, and it was also just fun to hear Bee's resume. Just the energy that she's given to this. The energy she's given to this town. It doesn't surprise me. She wants to continue her legacy with her physical asset of her house, but just thank you for your service, Bee. And welcome to the Protos. I'm excited that you're considering it too. It's again a huge thing that differentiates our town is the historic district. So thank you all.
Thank you. Is Ted?
Ted is on.
Ted?
I'm here.
Hi, Ted.
I'm just going to echo what everyone else said. I think these houses are very worthy additions to the district, and thank you both for considering adding them.
Liz Gemsky.
And Elizabeth? You're
Yeah,
there?
no questions. Thank you for considering, and ditto to everything. It's already been said. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of work for the town, and it's a great when homeowners consider to enter, and these are definitely worth preserving. Do we have public?
So yep, and you're set. I do. So there is two pieces of written correspondence I want to make sure we get in the record. So the first, and then we'll go to folks that have called in if there's any. We did, as Garrett mentioned, as part of the process, the request to add these homes to the historic district gets sent to the State Historic Preservation Office, and we received their report back, which was a positive report, right? So as at this December 7th meeting, Historic Preservation Council voted to recommend approval of the proposed ordinance and boundary as presented in the study report for 11 Waterville Road and the study report for the proposed property at 26 Waterville Road. The council commends the town for taking this step to protect significant architecture and historic resources. So that's certainly positive. And then again, as Garrett had noted, the reports were forwarded to the Town Plan and Zoning Commission, really as an advisory. They were discussed at the October 12th meeting with the TPZ. And again, it was all positive. They're forwarded a positive endorsement back to the historic district in support of the expansion report and the addition of these homes. So that's those were just the 2 points I wanted to make sure got in the record. And then, yes, we can open it up to public comment. Perhaps we'll start with the homeowners, and then we'll open it up to anyone else. So I know Jennifer Proto is on. We'll start with 11 Waterville. Jennifer, do you have any questions or comments or anything that you would like clarified that was shared already today?
Oh, thank you. We're both very excited. This is our second house we've renovated, having moved here from Middletown, 8 years ago. And so to join a historic district is pretty exciting. I did just have one question as far as the timing of getting approvals. And also, really the only outstanding project that we're thinking of down the road is re-shingling the house with cedar. The 115-year-old shingles are starting to fail on us, and the paint's been peeling for a while and that sort of thing. If we get approval and then we're kind of lining up a contractor and maybe doing one side of the house at a time, is there like a time frame we have to get it done by once we get the approval, if that makes sense? Like, how much time do we have after we've gotten the approvel to finish the project?
Sure. Yeah, there's typically no time limit. As long as continued progress is being made. If you get an approval and then 10 years go by and nothing's happened, then we'd probably would want a fresh discussion. But as long as there's some type of continued progress, then there's really not a time limit. We understand sometimes these projects are a labor of love with these homes and can take a little bit of effort.
Do you have any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. I do want to note too, just with respect to roofing, typically if it's a like for like replacement, then we'll review it administratively with the chair, and those proceed without having to go through the certificate of appropriateness process. So there would be no public hearing. if we run into situations where there's material changes or extensive renovations, that's when we will have you in. But typically the roofing, again, if it's like for like, then it will go through without the COA and is a more streamlined process typically.
Okay.
Great.
Sure. Okay, then I'm gonna move on to 26 Waterville Road and B Stockwell. And B, I know you've had great fun chatting with all of us this evening, which is awesome.
Yes.
But I do want to give you an opportunity in case you have any questions or want anything clarified this evening while you've got everybody on the phone, just to make sure that you're clear on what our processes are and how this will work moving forward.
I just want to say that I'm thrilled that we will be considered, and I always honored Noah Wallace, and he did leave money to Noah Wallace. My 4 sons went through Noah Wallace and loved it, and that money has been used in the first district to create programs that we might not ordinarily be able to give to children, and I wanted to be sure that his legacy is remembered.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, with that, we will open it up to general questions and comments from the public. If anyone is called in and has any question or comment regarding this expansion study, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom, and you'll be acknowledged to address the commission with your questions. All right, one more time, if anyone's called in for a general question or comment, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom. Okay, Mr. Chair, there are no comments, other public comments. So, and I don't believe Garrett and I have anything else to add at this time. So I think we can close and.
Okay. No further questions from anybody. We have a motion to close the hearing.
I have one question. Do
Oh,
we
sure.
get a plaque that we put on our house, or how do we identify that it is?
There aren't plaques
Okay.
for the Farmington Historic District, so all the mapping will be done, and so the mapping shows is both in the clerk's office and at the planning office, and then the town ordinance is updated. So that's one of the documents that have been emailed to you, and we'll get you that hard copy as you requested.
You will be able to get a plaque from the state once you're approved from the state. You have to pay for it. It's an oval plaque, and that's, last I checked, it was $25.
Okay.
It's a plaque given out by the Connecticut Historical Commission.
Okay.
You can apply for it. I've done it a couple of times.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. So we need, you close the hearing, so we need a motion and a second
Exactly.
to approve the study report.
Would somebody like to make the motion?
I'll make the motion, Jim, that we approve the study report as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second,
Seconds?
I second.
Good. Any further discussion? We need discussion from the audience at this point? No, that's gone. Okay. All those in favor? The motion signify saying aye and raise your
Aye.
hand.
Aye.
Unanimous.
It is unanimous, so that's perfect.
Approved. Thank you.
So, thank you, B and Jennifer and Jared. We appreciate you calling in. You're welcome to stay on the rest with us, but you're also welcome to log off, whatever you want to do for the evening. We will be forwarding up, following up. Garrett will follow up, and then as noted, there's a 30-day period that, should you want to change your mind, there's a 30-day period to provide written notification to us as such. In the meantime, we will start the process of getting this on the town council agenda for January, February, so that the final hearing with town council can take place to adopt the change to the town ordinance, which will officially add your properties to the historic district.
Thank you.
Okay,
I-
perfect.
I would like to say that since I've been on the board, this is the second time we had an extension of the historic district. And it's a lot of work for everybody, and everybody pitched in, and including the homeowners, which we appreciate. It's well worth it because we see what we get. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
So next,
next up is Bank of America. And I had a bunch of other stuff open, so I'm gonna close out the other things and move on to Bank of America stuff. And I believe we have Rachel and Amanda on the phone, or
Hi, yes, Amanda Johnson from Gensler, and we also, I believe, have Bill Foley. He is with Seabury, which is the management group for Bank of America.
okay, perfect. So perhaps one of you can explain just briefly for the commission. So I have the information that Rachel had sent to me, bless you, that has the existing photo of the existing building and then the rendering of what's proposed. And then I also, which I think I had shared with your team as well as our members, I had gone through and pulled all the how we got here, the history of the property. So I've got that open in case we need it for reference, but I think it was more just for general understanding on everyone's part. So perhaps Amanda, if you or Bill can run through exactly what Bank of America is looking to do, then the commission can better understand whether a full certificate of appropriateness is going to be needed.
Absolutely. So as you can see, if you want to go back one page, please, to the existing conditions, I believe everyone in town is probably very familiar with this location and the building. What the bank is looking to do is, help upgrade the facade a bit to, liven it up. As everyone knows, it is an existing masonry pebble texture concrete, and that type of surface and material is very difficult to work with in terms of removal and getting it up to a better aesthetic. So what we were proposing for this location is to actually apply a textured stucco to the facade because of that pebble texture and the masonry condition on all four sides of the building. And what we would like to do is just have it be colored. So we would tint the bottom portion a darker gray color and the upper portion a white color, just to give it a little bit of an update look from the very brutalist design that is currently there today. So the bank is just, just looking to kind of upgrade that facade the best they can given the existing conditions.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
start some questions from, let's see, how about starting with Michelle?
Yeah, I do have one question. Shannon, can you flip to the prior one? But yeah. Oh, okay. I was just wondering about that lighting. I see that hasn't changed. Specifically referencing the fixtures that are affixed to the building. Yeah, right there. Mhm.
Correct. We weren't going to remove those. We would obviously remove them to do the stucco, but then we would be putting them back in place, the same exact fixtures back in place, because I believe that those were approved through a different process.
Okay, and then the second question I have is with respect to the stucco. If we can just forward to the proposed rendering. So with the stucco, I know pebble is pebble, so it wouldn't be the same, it couldn't or wouldn't be the same texture, I assume, but would it have like a grainy, texture to it or no?
It would have the feel of like a traditional stucco house that you might have seen at the turn of the century, which were popular in some parts of New England. So it would have a little bit of that texture from the way that the person would install it. There are different types of applications, but the idea would be that it wouldn't be super smooth. It wouldn't have like we aren't looking for a modern appeal to it. We want it to have a little bit of texture because the pebble as well, it's not, the pebble isn't very forgiving, right? So
Right.
it would have a little bit of a texture to it, but at least it would feel a little bit, it wouldn't feel super modern. That's not what we're trying to achieve.
Okay, those are the questions that I had. Thank you.
Next, Jay?
Yeah, really two areas of questions. First, thank you, Shannon, for putting together the history. I'm just curious, when did this property come into the district, and was it in this form at that time? I know that, I don't know if it's to be a surprise to others, this was actually a gas station at one time, apparently, a repair station. But do you know beyond pre-77?
I don't, because I pulled our files that we have in record, and that's as far back as it goes. And that was as much as I had.
What year was that?
1977.
Yeah, that was my burning question also, Jay.
So that's what I've got. That our records went back to that. The only other thing I could do was check the mapping. But there's gaps in the map. It goes from like 1955 when the district first came into play. There might be a 1970s map, and then there's like a 1980s and like there's big jumps in the mapping. So I could check that, which would tell us in what period it was added in, but it wouldn't, I don't have any photographic evidence of what it looked like at the time that it was added into the district.
Okay. I think Jerry Haviland actually was the one, Jim, that owned the when it was a service station. And not that we need to go ask him or Dorothy, but I mean, look, it's here. I'm not suggesting that, this is the building that's here, and that's fine. The other, so that was just one thought, just trying to kind of understand how we got here. But, going forward, it's interesting, and I appreciate, Amanda, that you use the term brutalist, because I hadn't really thought about it. But I mean, that is pretty amazing that, we pride ourselves actually in the district that we actually do have some incredible, all architectural styles, including a very mid-century modern house on High Street. Never really occurred to me that we actually have somewhat of a representation of brutalist architecture here. But assuming that's what this is, I guess, and again, I know we're really just deciding today, I believe, whether or not you need to come back to get a temporary certificate of appropriateness. But I think, to me, it's important to think, well, what are the changes you're making substantial? And I guess I have to look at this, and the more I look at the two different images, I think you are. I mean, I think, if we were to consider this a brutalist structure, it is the concrete look, the heavy concrete, and it's all matching, whereas the potential proposed change, is lightening the top, putting on a different type of, it's not really a concrete look. I mean, it is, but not quite as heavy concrete, obvious concrete. So I say that not because I necessarily would object if you change it, but more that, and I'm going to doubt it, the chances are unlikely, but there's perhaps somebody out there that actually, would think of it in those terms and want to have an opportunity at a public hearing to comment on the fact that they are making revisions which sort of take away the essential nature of what they built. It would be kind of interesting to know if this was architecturally designed or what they did. Again, I think it was a converted building, believe it or not. So probably not. And why they chose this facade and architecture, I'm not sure. But at any rate, I guess that's kind of my thinking is I'd rather, in case somebody would want to make some kind of comment on it, give people, the public, an opportunity to do that. And I suppose at this point, maybe I'd like to think a little bit more about it as well. So those are my comments, Jim. Thanks.
Thank you. Cliff, Mix?
No questions. I was curious about the texture also, but that question has been asked and answered, so I don't have anything. Thank you.
Yep. Joanne Lawson?
My questions are, is that white part going to be shiny? I mean, you say it has some texture, but is it like,
No,
is
it
it
wouldn't,
just
it wouldn't
paint?
be sheen. It would be a matte texture. It wouldn't be, I understand what you're saying. Like if you think in terms of paint, it wouldn't be like a semi-gloss that you'd see on maybe your interior trim. It would be more of more of like a flat paint texture. So when the sun hits it, it's not going to be shiny.
And then just like in general, does it change the character of the building to have the different colors? I don't know, but I think it's something we should maybe discuss. So, yeah, you're not changing the structure of the building, but the look, it changes quite a bit, it seems like.
Okay. Thank you. Next, Elizabeth.
Thanks.
Elizabeth?
Sorry, you went out when you said my name the first time. Yeah, I do agree that I feel like this is kind of the gateway to Farmington area when people come down Route 4. And I'd like to, it's hard to see from the second photo what exactly it would look like, particularly the texture. And I know we don't handle color, but I agree. How does the color change the facade? So I would be actually in favor of having more discussion on this.
Thank you. Ted?
So I was curious about this building too. So I looked up the property card and it says it was built in 1970. And as I recall, when I was growing up here, the gas station that was here or in that location was pretty small. So I think it was built from scratch. But anyway, I think the changes are significant enough that we do need to have further discussion on it.
Okay. Thank you, Ted. John?
Yeah, hey, a couple thoughts and questions. I think it definitely merits further discussion. I'm pretty familiar with Gensler. Like I know that you guys are a global firm, world-class reputation. Just curious, like other options you may have come up with and when you kind of did this redesign, how you thought about it in context with the buildings around it. Because my view, again, this building is very different than most buildings in Farmington, everything around it. So materials wise, design wise, I'm curious how far you maybe push some of the boundaries with options to make this building maybe more of a better fit for what's around it.
So we looked at a few different options and, to bring it back to the point of, trying to make it fit to be a historical clapboard house, is that really the right move for a building that is a brutalist style? So so we really tried to go back to look at what is this vernacular, and the vernacular is brutalism, right? So for us to, change that to look, very similar to what is next door and do wood siding, it doesn't feel right. It feels very forced. It doesn't feel like we're keeping in with what was placed here, right, back in the 70s. It was approved once in the 70s, and brutalism, you love it or not, it is historic, and there is significance to that type of work, especially, in the Boston area and other areas. Downtown Hartford has them, and especially New Haven down by Yale. So, we didn't want to completely wipe that concept of it. And, if you could imagine just putting siding on this, I don't think it would feel right. I don't think wood cedar siding would give you that feel that you would feel like it was really part of the neighborhood mix. I think it stands on its own as a brutalist structure. And, we tried to respect that with, trying to give it a little bit of a refresh as well, with just, some stucco to paint it. So that was kind of what we explored when we looked at it.
Okay, thank you. That everybody?
That's everybody.
I have one question. The colors are kind of switching, or they're going to be different. So on the top portion, is that white or off-white, whatever it's going to be? Is that like an ephes with a stucco on it?
No. It would be
Panels.
it would be pure stucco that they would actually come in. Someone would actually come in and plaster the stucco over the facade. We wouldn't actually put an ephes
Okay.
over that. No.
Okay. And you mentioned that it's going to be flat, but is it going to have like a sand finish, which would help to possibly not reflect light the way
Yes,
flat?
the stucco is just by the material itself has that sand look. So there is that little bit of a grain and grit. When I was referencing shiny, I was more or less talking about like paint, like if you think of paint stains, right? Like a high gloss, it has that shiny finish. And if you painted that over stucco, you would, I don't think it usually looks very good, right? It shows a lot of things. It shows, a lot of imperfections. Everyone knows that with high gloss paint. So the idea is a lot of times when you see stucco structures, even in older buildings and homes, they're flat finish, right? So what it does is it kind of shows that texture of the sand as you're referring to in the stucco. And it also helps just like kind of bring that texture, and it softens the building a little bit more, where the sheen would just exacerbate every imperfection known to man.
Yes, I've been watching those the panels on the pebbled panels gradually fading and bubbling. So I could see why something needs to be done, because they're taking on water or moisture.
And to match it with the way the aggregate is,
right?
You can't.
It
never it doesn't patch correctly.
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue we have with this type of structure.
So the first floor, the first level, that we can see that in the second picture shows it's gray. Is that what is that? What is there now? Is it brick or is it concrete?
No, it's concrete. So if you go to the second slide, it's all, so those are actually the same.
It is the same. Okay.
It's the same. I think it's the way the shadow cast on it.
Yes, there you go. Got it. Yep, I see it. Okay. Well, okay. Those are my questions. I guess we just need to decide whether this needs to go for a hearing and do a little more
But
research.
it sounds like a official COA is going to be
It
required.
does.
So that's fine. It seems that's the consensus. So my follow-up question then is, what additional information does the commission want, or is there anything in addition other than the time and to go through the hearing process? But is there additional information or detail that you would like the applicant to provide as part of the formal application so that we can get this finished for them in January? Amanda, there'd be a submission deadline in a week or so, probably a week or week and a half. Why am I guessing? Somebody's got it on my sheet here. Submission is December 27th, so 1 week from today, for the January 17th meeting. And we can email you the application.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure if there's additional information that the commission would find helpful in making this decision, I want to make sure that we have it on hand.
Yeah, if I can, Jim,
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I would, I mean, I'd like to understand a little more why you can't replicate what's there, I guess, ultimately. I mean, I'm not someone to say we should freeze things the way they are, but, you know, and try to understand why there's a change in design, if you will. You know, why aren't we just matching it all the same? And what is the, I mean, Jim, I heard you and I appreciate it because I had forgot to ask, you know, what is the issue they're trying to solve for? In other words, why is this change being made simply for stylistic purposes and the bank thinks it'll somehow attract more attention, or is there a structural issue which is being addressed? And I hear it's a little both probably, but at any rate, kind of understand that because I think, you know, we're, I really want to kind of understand as I look more at the existing image. I'm not so sure I'm saying I appreciate the building more because it is kind of out of place, but on the other hand, it is what we have. It is a representation of a style. And I would encourage other board members to look it up on the internet. And a great point by Amanda that, you know, New Haven's got some great examples. Unfortunately, they lost a few great examples. And I'm not saying this is a great example. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it is a representation of a style, probably not the greatest representation, quite frankly. But I would like to understand a little more why you feel you need to do this versus, as somebody already asked, other alternatives, which I would think would be to try to keep the present facade.
Any other questions or remarks?
This is Joanne. So I'm just not familiar with what the stucco would really look like. I know I see the little pictures, but are there actual samples that I could look at of what the material would be?
I'm sure we could get you a stucco sample to help understand what that texture would be.
Okay.
Yeah, and basically you wouldn't have the panels that you see now. Correct?
If you go back to, I
Go
think,
back to the pebbles.
Well, this is the proposed.
Yeah, you go to the,
And then,
yeah,
so you're still seeing, because it looks like you're still seeing the relief here though with those columns.
yeah.
correct, because there's still a relief.
Yeah. There's an actual relief there. There's,
Okay.
you're seeing.
Yeah, it's not
you
actually like,
can
yeah,
see
they're not
seams.
actually panels. They go back about 8 inches actually. They do step back in for the
There.
building.
But on the actual
On the
Top
upper-
portion.
parapet,
Yeah.
what I'd call a parapet wall, I
Yeah.
guess, you could see where they're like 8-foot
There's
portions,
seams.
whatever the sheets were, and that's what is one of the problems.
Well, so that could be resolved 2 ways. You could either stucco over it so you don't see the seams, or you could stucco over it and then actually, the installer could make it so that seam line is there, so it does have a more, so it reflects the original paneling. Either application could be applied.
That to me looks slightly more contemporary, and again, if it's going against the brutalist concept, but the building is brutal.
Okay.
If I could, I
Inside.
agree. I'd like to see a sample and maybe a closer picture so we could really get an idea of what it would look like. It's just hard to see.
Perhaps
Just to
Amanda,
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm just to piggyback on that a little bit. I know we're not to be considering colors, but I thought I heard that the lower portion, the way the presentation of the building is, suggests, and I think a more contrast. And if that's just the representation of, or the rendering, the illustration, That would just be helpful to know and understand.
Okay. Yeah, and Amanda, all I was gonna suggest is in addition to a sample board, if you have photos of where, you know, the stucco has been applied, if you've got a project or something, a post-construction project photo that you know, you could submit along with some of the information might be helpful.
One other comment. We don't do paint. I understand that. However, we're almost, if you look at the light and the dark, now we're talking possibly texture. We may be talking more than just paint. So that's, I mean, it's uniform now. And now there's going to be a very a different appearance. I don't know whether that breaches, you
So
know.
the color, I think we've got to just make sure that from a comment standpoint, the color, right? They, not that we'd like to see this, but they could come in and make the building purple and there's not
Yes.
really anything anybody could do about it.
Yes.
So they could paint it red, white and blue for Bank of America. So there's shading, right? So I think some of what we're seeing is the difference in the color of the top and bottom.
Yes.
And then we're also getting some of the shading that we're seeing here because of that overhang. So to the extent perhaps the samples would be helpful, so we get an understanding of the true understanding of the texture. And it might, again, some of the shading and the color, that kind of is what it is. So we want to make sure that we're staying in the right box.
Do we know, Amanda, do we know when that mansard metal roof was put on? It seems to me it's like not that old, like it's 15, 20 years old.
No, when I went back to the drawings, Jim, it's showing in the drawings. Let me go to the history.
It almost like it was redone.
Well, it may have been redone.
Right.
But I want to say it's showing in the drawing. There's not much in the 1977, but I want to say it was the 1980s. And it clearly shows that metal, that standing seam metal. And again, everything's black and white, right? It's all hand drawn. There wasn't a lot of labels.
Right.
There's not a lot of material call outs. There's not a lot of anything in the drawings. Yeah, but it clearly that intent of that standing seam is shown. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Last call on Bank of America. Okay, Amanda, thank you so much for calling in. This was really helpful. I will follow up with you tomorrow. You and Rachel, I will get you the application. And I'm happy to chat with you if you want to try to make sure we get everything and can get this submitted for next Tuesday for you folks. I know it's a tight turnaround with the holiday in there.
It is, but I want to thank everyone for your time and just, letting us talk on our project. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on to other business.
Move on. Okay.
Election of officers for 2023.
Election of officers for 2023. Yes.
Years keep on going.
All right. So we are going to open elections with the nomination for chair. We'll need a nomination and a second for chair, and we will nominate and do second and then do discussion and vote for chair, and then we'll do vice chair and secretary. So we'll go through the full election process for each position before we move on to the next position. It's our full members. So it's Jim Calciano, Jay Bombara, Joanne Lawson, Cliff Mix, and Michelle Phelan are eligible for holding positions of chair, vice chair, and secretary. And since we have all our full members present, they are also will be the only voting members for these elections. So with that, I would like to open up for a nomination for chair for our 2023 year, please.
Before that, Jen, can I just make a point of order? I know we went through this before. I'm not looking to revisit this. I don't necessarily agree that both alternates cannot serve as officers, nor that they cannot vote on the officers. But having said that, let's move on.
Thank you. Duly
Thank you,
noted.
Jen.
Okay, with that, then again, I'd like to open up for nomination for chair for this Farmington Historic District for 2023, please.
I'd like to nominate Jay Bombera for chair.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any other nominations for chair for 2023? Okay, hearing none. Is there any discussion, or Mr. Bombara, would you like to make a statement of any sort?
Well, I'll just say I'm happy to serve. If you guys decide you want me to do it, I have done it before. I think you all know me and have heard me go on too much. Lived in the district, own a home for the past 20 years. If you'd like, I'd be happy to serve.
So take a vote. All in favor? Raise your hand, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Any
Aye.
opposed? No abstentions?
Okay. And
Congratulations.
passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move on to vice chair. So I will take a nomination for vice chair for the Historic District for 2023.
I'll nominate Jim Calciano.
Okay. Is there a second, please?
I'll
I'll
second.
second that.
Okay. All right, is there any discussion, or Jim, do you have a statement you would like to make?
No statement. I will serve in whatever capacity I am asked.
Perfect. Okay. Anything else? All right, all in favor of Jim Calciano for vice chair, signify by
Aye.
saying aye.
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 Aye. All right, unanimous, thank you. All right, last one, secretary for 2023, please. Need a nomination.
I would nominate Michelle Phelan, assuming she's willing to do it.
Second.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I had a good coach for this meeting, so I'm honored to serve and will just work to the best of my ability.
Okay,
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Welcome.
all right, unanimous, wonderful, thank you very much. Congratulations, and Mr. Bombara, look forward to working with you and
Again.
emailing regularly with you again.
Yep, same here, Shannon. Thanks, and thanks to all the staff. Look forward to working with a few of you that I don't know yet.
Absolutely. All right. Next up is discussion on historic site features, walls, fences, etc. And for this, I'm going to go over to Google Maps and drop down just to Route 10, Main Street, the Main Street portion of Farmington. It really is applicable to many portions, obviously, but not just the Main Street. This stemmed from an email that I received from John Renahan regarding concern over some site elements for his property and surrounding properties. Ornamental walls are one. You can see there's this wall here that we're, it's at the edge of the property. There's different keystone markers and features or ornamental pillars along, particularly as we come in front of Miss Porter's. And so I think it's fairly clear, particularly in our application. You can see this stone wall. In the application, that site features and site elements are included in the purview of the historic district. But since there seems to be some concern, one, we wanted to have a discussion, make sure we're all on the same page and that staff's not going off into left field. But if we're agreeable, it might be appropriate for our office to, the Sandy part of our office, to send a letter out to the members of the historic district, all the member homes, and just a polite, friendly reminder, as we go into the new year. Reminder, historic district, if you're thinking of projects, please reach out to staff, and not only projects on the exterior of your home, but exterior, what I would refer to as hardscape, light posts, walls, fences, even the sidewalk. We've reviewed sidewalks on some of the properties, right? Sidewalks and driveways, somebody had an asphalt sidewalk and they were putting it back to the brick pavers. So we thought a letter out to everyone may be the most appropriate and non-confrontational, non-combative way to address this, get everybody on the same page. And then we also have a record of it in our files too, that folks were notified at the beginning of the year, and we can even plan to do this every couple of years. Properties change. We try to be mindful of when properties change hands and get a welcome letter out, but we don't always, we do occasionally miss somebody. So just thoughts, questions, comments.
I think that's a great idea.
Oh, good. Okay.
I do have a couple questions, since I'm new on the commission, but I think it's 80 Main Street, the red one that belongs to Miss Porter's. They put a rail fence up recently, and then Miss Porter's put up an iron fence. Did they have to get approval for those?
Yes, and they
They
did.
Okay. And
Almost a
so,
year ago.
oh, okay, before my time. So if anybody wants to change a fence or a wall, they would have to come to the commission to do that, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and Joanne, I had to do the same thing. I had an old
Oh.
fence from the 1920s, and I'm putting in an iron fence, a real upgrade. I still had to come in and get approval. So it's important to pass this on to, a reminder is a great idea, and especially properties are changing hands every few years, and a reminder is a good thing.
Okay. All right. That's how we'll proceed and address it. We'll get a letter drafted, and Jay will probably float it by you just for a second set of eyes, and then we'll get it mailed out to all the members of the district.
Great.
Perfect.
Thank you. All right, last item, well, one of the last items anyway, return to in-person meetings. What say ye all?
I would welcome it, because especially even like seeing what stucco looks like, it would be good if I was with people who knows what stucco looks like. And it's good to interact in human, in person with humans.
I agree. I think it's time to go back to in-person.
I would only say selfishly, it's kind of more convenient not to, but I have to admit that it's, I think, fair to each other, and more importantly to the public, to be in person, and it's a more better way to communicate. So I will commit, if that's the consensus, to making in-person meetings.
Yeah, I think in general that this department's done an incredible job. I mean, really, considering all the hearings we've had, I mean, it was almost seamless. It really was well done, so. I'm for it. Do we
I
need to
just-
vote on that? or-
No, I'm
I
just
just-
looking for a consensus,
Yes,
so
yes, sorry.
go ahead,
I just have one question.
certainly.
In-person meetings are great. I've been before this board for my own property several years ago. My only question would be, would Zoom still be available if a need arose, or is it one or the other?
Yeah,
I just ask.
no, I know.
It has to be
So-
available.
Well, no, I don't believe it has, we can say it is solely in person. I believe the town council's preference is that it's available hybrid. I'd have to go back to the latest update to the Public Act and documentation, but I believe it can be all in person.
Yeah, it's permissive. It allows cities and towns to be hybrid, so we have the ability to do that.
We
It
do.
doesn't-
It's the
doesn't-
additional, yes, so it's the technology and additional staffing to do it.
I understand. Yep.
So it's not so there's two different questions as to legally, do we have to? Versus, is that how we are going to proceed? So legally, do we have to have Zoom? I don't believe so. I can double check on the exact wording of the Public Act. Ideally, yes, we will. I will endeavor with our IT department. But if we're going to be in person, then the intent is that the majority of everyone is in person, and I don't have two commission members down in council chambers with staff and everybody else zooming in.
I
Right?
understand.
For
Yep.
the intent would be that it would be the exception to the rule that they're traveling for work or some unexpected life event has taken place, and hey, I want to participate and I'm free, like the time slot's free. You can't be there in person.
And that's where we have alternates.
Right, and there are alternates, correct?
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so, but, yeah, the idea would be
So-
if we're in person, it's an all in, it's all or nothing.
Okay, that answers my
Cliff-
question. Yes.
Cliff's point is a good one. I mean, I was thinking about myself, but now he's made me think about what about applicants? And, to come out at 5 o'clock and have to be in Farmington, some of us may have jobs and schedules that make it relatively easy to do. But, what if there's an applicant that, it's a lot easier just to get on the Zoom rather than get in person. Now,
Mhm.
it used to be you always had to be there in person, so I don't really have a problem with it, but I would keep that in mind is if we can find a way to make it easier for applicants, because we obviously, as we just heard tonight, we ask people to join the district, we ask people to own these homes. We tell them that it's a relatively painless process when you have to do this. So the easier we can keep it for applicants and potential new additions to the district, we should try to do that. So I'm not saying I have an answer tonight. I'm just saying we should try to keep that in mind.
Understood.
Yep.
So I will speak to our IT department, and we will, for now, everyone plan on being in person then in January. We will be downstairs in council chambers in January.
I mean, could we make it, sorry to belabor this, but these ideas are, could we make it so that people could listen though live? Is that?
The mechanism for doing that for us is through Zoom, so that it's different. So town council, because it's a broadcast through the cable TV, they have one mechanism of doing it, but because none of the land use boards, the only thing that's broadcast through the cable TV is town council. And that was even prior to the pandemic and
Right.
everything. So now with us, none of the land use boards were doing that. So it's a slightly different mechanism. And how IT sets us up to do this is different than what they have to do for town council. And it has to come through the town council chambers. And the audio, the only way to do it and have us pick up the audio and pick up everybody's microphone is to have the town council chamber audio talk to the Zoom audio and then back feed through. So otherwise, because you can't just use a speakerphone on the conference table, right? It's not robust enough to pick up everybody's voice in that large room. So it's not as simple as just, hey, we've got a conference call number instead. It won't work in that room. So it's doable. It just takes, it's more hands on deck, and we're going to need IT on hand for at least the first couple of meetings. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I guess staff report,
No,
you're done.
I'm done.
Good
There's
job.
none. There's
Literally.
none.
So let's approve the minutes of the November 15th, 2022 meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the November 15, 2022 meeting as submitted.
15th. Second,
I'll second it.
all those in favor, aye, and raise your hand. Aye.
I,
Motion carries. How about a adjournment motion?
All right.
So moved.
And everybody have happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas.
Have a wonderful holiday,
See
everyone.
you in the